The meeting is now live on YouTube, and it's being broadcast to the public right now.
So do we have enough to get started? Don't see the county. There she is.
I'm here and I can hear all of you, so I'm not sure what happened.
You're on now. Okay, well, I think we have enough to get started, so I'll call this meeting to order of the Local Agency Formation Commission for April 15th. This meeting will proceed as a teleconference in compliance with waivers to certain Brown Act provisions under the governor's executive orders in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. Members of the public may provide comments if participating via Zoom by either clicking the raise hand button from the Zoom browser or Zoom app, or for those on Zoom via phone, you can raise your hands by pressing *9. Comments and testimony are limited to 3 minutes. Additionally, the agenda also informs members of the public that they may submit written comments by mail, email, or online through the Commission's website public comment link no later than 7:30 a.m. today. And these comments and testimony will be read on the record at the appropriate time. Ms. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley?
I'm here.
Commissioner Cox?
Present.
Commissioner Curatolo? Commissioner Lovingood? Commissioner McAllen?
Here.
Commissioner Rao?
Here.
Commissioner Warren?
Present.
Commissioner Dennison?
Here.
Commissioner Amos? Commissioner Farrell?
Here.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, if you would all mute your phone or mute your mic right now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Great.
I guess everyone didn't hear the mute yourself call, but that's all right. We got through it, even though it's a little disjointed. Another announcement, anyone present at the hearing who is involved with any of the changes of organization to be considered and who has made a contribution of more than $250 in the past 12 months to any member of the commission will be asked to state for the record the commission member to whom the contribution has been made and the matter of consideration with which they are involved. Is there anyone in the public or on the commission who wishes to make a declaration on this matter? Someone needs to mute their phone. Seeing none, we will first have a closed session. Before we have comments on the closed session items, we'll have legal counsel state the items on closed session.
Yes, good morning, Commission. The Commission will be meeting in closed session for 2 items of litigation, both involving conference with legal counsel for existing litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D1. The first is San Antonio Heights Association versus County of San Bernardino et al., San Bernardino County Superior Court case number stated on the agenda, and also San Antonio Heights Association versus County of San Bernardino et al., San Bernardino County Superior Court case number also as stated on the agenda.
Ms. Jones, were there any written comments submitted from the public on these closed session items?
No comments submitted.
Okay, is there anyone in the public wishing to speak on this item? Please either click the raise hand button, or for those on Zoom via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. I see none. The commission will be convening in a closed session and will be back shortly. So all of us will now go into closed session.
Excuse me, I was unable to respond to the roll call earlier. This is Commissioner Amos, and I am here. Thank you.
Very good. Join us in closed session.
We're still waiting.
Hi,
Jeffrey,
Commissioner Warren.
are we still waiting or, because I don't hear anything?
Right, because they are in the closed session now. So you can dial the number that is listed.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
what number is that? I thought I was going to be moved over. No wonder. What is the number I need to dial?
I can announce it here. I'll send it to you because everybody will hear the number. Sorry.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, please. We'll text it to you.
All right, that's fine. Wait, that's 797376. Okay, here we go.
Jeff, Aquanetta Warren's phone.
Yes, we're trying to text the.
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing that question because there's a reverb that's on the.
Okay, we'll reconvene in open session. And Madam Attorney, do we have any announcements from closed session? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any announcements out of closed session?
Back in open session?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yes, the board met in closed session for both items listed for closed session, and there is no reportable action.
Okay, before we move on to the open items. Ms. Jones, have we received any written comments on any of the open session items?
No, not as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll move now to the selection of the chair and vice chair. Staff?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. At this time in May of every year, the commission by policy selects its chair and vice chair. The terms of office are for 1 year, and per the commission's recent amendments to its policy, which was adopted in April, the chair and vice chair are allowed to serve no more than 2 consecutive full terms. It was also noted that any regular voting member of the commission may be appointed to these positions. And finally, it was noted that Chair McAllen and Vice Chair Curtalo are completing their first full term of office and are therefore eligible for reappointment to their positions. So at this time, I will open the nomination for chair and or vice chair.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Larry McCallum for chair of LAFCO for the upcoming year.
I'd second that. And I'd also like to add that nominate Mr. Curtello as vice chair. Commissioner
I
Levin.
second that.
Is there a motion to, are there any nominations?
Yeah, we just had nomination for myself and for Curatello. So
Is there a motion to close the nomination?
I nominate, this motion is to close the nominations.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Loving good.
So, Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
I'm not sure if Commissioner Curtalo has joined us yet.
Yes, I am. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lovinggood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we now move to item 5, which was a surprise to me, but we're going to be doing it, I guess. We're interviewing and selecting an alternate public member. Staff?
Thank you. It is now time to interview and select an alternate public member to the commission. The term of office for this position expires in May every 4 years, and included in the materials are the 5 applications for this position. I believe all 5 applicants are present today. They've been advised not only about the Zoom meeting, but also that they would have the ability to make a brief presentation about their interests in this position. And then the commission can choose to select today or continue the item for further consideration. I will let you know that in selecting an alternate public member, it requires that at least 1 commissioner from each category, county, city, and special districts, must vote for the successful candidate. I will now call on each applicant in alphabetical order and allow each one to make a brief presentation. We will give them 3 minutes to make the presentation. And I will begin by calling on our first candidate, Ms. Louisa Amos, who is a resident of the city of Redlands. Ms. Amos, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good morning again. My name is Louisa Amos. I'm here today seeking reappointment as the alternate public member, a position I've held since 2018. I'm a 15-year resident of Redlands. I have a BA from Converse College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I graduated in the top 10% of the class. I also have a BS in chemistry from Tennessee State University where I was a Dean's List student. I'm a published author in various scientific journals, such as the Journal of Chromatography, etc. In addition to my experimental work in the laboratory, I was also a student mentor. I apologize, I skipped over what I meant to say, which was that I moved here to accept a job as a research assistant at Loma Linda University. And in that capacity, I was a published author. So I was a student mentor. I was the lab manager. All of these required meticulous attention to detail while maintaining an understanding of the whole project. These attributes are very important to LAFCO service. I have a strong sense of community and a strong desire for public service. I'm a member of the Friends of the A.K. Smiley Public Library, the Historical Society, and the Redlands Conservancy. I have volunteered for the bookstore of the Friends of the Library and 2 animal rescue organizations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I have volunteered for the Family Services Association of Redlands Never Alone program, and I have volunteered in a similar capacity for my church. During my time at LAFCO, I have come to a greater understanding of the challenges that San Bernardino County faces. One of our greatest challenges is water. I've attended seminars held by the local government commission regarding the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, and I became certified in that program. Through webinars and seminars, I have learned more about the Brown Act and the Cortez-Knox-Hertzberg Act in order to understand the structure and mission of LAFCOs. Thank you very much for your consideration today.
Thank you, Ms. Amos. Our second candidate is Mr. Dieter DeMeyer, who is a resident of the city of Rancho Cucamonga. Mr. DeMeyer.
Thank you. Everyone can hear me, I hope?
Yes.
Well, good morning. I hope everyone's staying safe. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to address the commission today. One important fact to keep in mind is I come across much smarter and better looking in person. So make sure you factor that in today. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in the Inland Empire, mostly on the west side, bouncing around. So this is my home. I've always wanted to be involved in government and just being involved in the community, which is probably what led me to be a police officer early on. I was in law enforcement for about 12 years, during which, when I went to law school, I became an attorney. And I've been mostly involved in representing police and firefighters for my 23-year career as an attorney. I also dabble in real estate law, so I have certain experience with that. Now, that experience has brought me a lot of good fortune in my life as far as experience. I've dealt with probably 100+ local agencies throughout the state of California. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Usually I was working towards coming up with a win-win solution. That's kind of what I strive to do, think out of the box, come up with ways to resolve things. I've also had the good fortune of being appointed as a temporary judge in LA Superior Court and an arbitrator for the State Bar of California, where I've had the ability to look at cases, review complex issues, and ultimately have to make decisions. If given the opportunity, I would be honored to learn from and work with the commission and staff of LAFCO doing the important work that I know LAFCO does, ensuring orderly growth in local government, I think, is critical, especially understanding that local government is where we all say the rubber hits the road and people's daily lives are truly impacted. I'll demonstrate another trait of mine, which is being brief. I know as an attorney, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to talk till past my time limit, but as the person who wants to be the new person on this team, hopefully brevity is a good thing. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Stay safe and healthy out there.
Thank you, Mr. DeMeyer. Our third candidate is Mr. James Daniels, also a resident of the city of Rancho Cucamonga. Mr. Daniels, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I am a 40-year resident of the city of Rancho Cucamonga. I grew up in the city of Claremont, so I've always been in the Inland Empire area. There are a couple of reasons why I've basically applied for this position. The first, I was approached by several people in Rancho Cucamonga and encouraged to apply. I feel I have good qualifications for the position, primarily due to my education, my experience, and my understanding to the workings of LAFCO and other boards. I have an undergraduate degree in the City of Regional Planning from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I have a master's degree from the University of Laverne, which I received while I was working. And then I was a member of the American Institute of Certified Planning. That was while I was working in the career. Work experience, I've worked in the late 70s in the city of Paso Robles as a planner, city of Upland during the majority of the 1980s. I went to the private sector as a project manager for a local home builder in the city of Orange County. And then I finished my career in the city of Norco. Began my career as a planner, worked my way through the ranks of a planner up to planning director, and finished my career for the last 10 or 12 years as a community development director. I have had several experiences with LAFCOs in San Bernardino County while I was working with Upland, and with this County of Riverside LAFCO while I was with the city of Norco, dealing with their sphere of influence and annexation to the north of the city, north of the Santa Ana River. I retired from the city of Norco approximately 12 years ago at an early age. My wife and I have 3 children. Our youngest daughter is autistic, and I retired and able to allow us to take care of her full time. We were having difficulty in finding someone that we felt was capable of watching her. And so my wife and I decided that I would take that role up. When I did retire, I was recruited and became a board member for a nonprofit. That nonprofit is OPARC, which is an organization primarily in San Bernardino County, but also a facility in Los Angeles County. They deal with developmentally disabled adults. I was a board member for 10 years. When I retired, OPARC was providing services opportunities for over 800 disabled adults in different capacities. Currently, I'm not doing any other work with any nonprofits or any agencies. To be brief, I will say that I feel I do qualify because of my understanding of planning and the duties of LAFCO with my education and my work experience. I want to thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to apply for this position and to speak to you. If you'd have any other information that you required of me, please feel free to let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Our fourth candidate is Mr. Jim Harvey, a resident of the community of Johnson Valley. Mr. Harvey, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Sam, I don't see anyone online.
Thank you, Executive Officer Samuel Martinez. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
we
great.
can hear you.
Thank you again, Executive Officer Samuel Martinez. Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the commission, my name is Jim Harvey, and I would like to thank you all for this opportunity to be considered for the alternate to the public seat on this commission. I have applied for the position in the past, and I'm here before you today because I do understand and appreciate the very important role San Bernardino County LAFCO plays in helping establish jurisdictions and spheres of influence for cities and special districts across the county. I fully support the Commission's mission of orderly and efficient growth and its vision of a strong sense of community for the residents of our great county. I'm a 20-year resident of Johnson Valley. It's a small unincorporated community in San Bernardino County's 3rd district. In 2007, I was featured in a front page article in the San Bernardino Sun titled "Man of the People," after leading a community effort to reform our local water district. Afterwards, I was appointed by my community to be a delegate on the Homestead Valley Community Council, where I continue to serve as president. The council, for your information, represents the 4 Homestead Valley communities of Yucca Mesa, Flamingo Heights, Landers, and Johnson Valley to our county, state, and federal lawmakers. One of our current projects is state scenic byway designation for Highway 247, and that's the highway that traverses our member communities. So we do a lot for the community. We expect this project to come to completion at the end of this year. As president of the Homestead Valley Community Council, I've had the honor of participating in several sphere of influence and jurisdictional matters before this commission. I gave both oral and written testimony, so I have a familiarity with the LAFCO process. In 2010, I ran in a very competitive race for a seat on the Lucerne Valley Unified School District Board of Trustees, and I was successfully elected. I continued to serve on the school board, having been reelected unopposed in 2014 and then unopposed again in 2018. I was appointed president for 8 consecutive years, leading the board and enacting very sweeping reforms to bring fiscal stability to the district and improved academic achievement for our students, which was really my top priority. I wrote a governance handbook for our school board, and that handbook is now the model for similar handbooks in dozens of school districts across California. In 2018, I was asked by the Small School Districts Association in Sacramento to join a team of trainers to develop training courses for other school boards and superintendents, and to help present them across the state. And today we have presented 5 workshops statewide and are planning several more of these workshops after the upcoming elections with new school board members coming aboard. I'm very proud to say that next week at our high school graduation, Small School Districts Association will be presenting our district with an award for being an exceptional California school district, small school district. I am also honored to represent Johnson Valley as a current member of the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council in the 3rd District, also known as the Big Mac. And I feel a strong sense of community would make me a very positive contributor to this commission as the alternate to the public member, should I be called to the dais. I want to thank you for this opportunity to be considered for this position, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Our 5th and final candidate is Mr. Scott Rindenau, who is a resident of the community of Lake Arrowhead. Mr. Rindenau, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning, and thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, good morning, commissioners. It's an honor to appear before you today. Again, my name is Scott Rindenau. My interest in serving on the commission is shared between my desire for healthy growth, a comfortable and inviting living environment, and an awareness of our local government and the county's diverse natural resources. I believe this in sensible oversight of expansion and development of our unique community that is very important to our future. I am now happily retired from a 37-year career as a live television director with CBS Television. Since 1992, I've been a resident of San Bernardino County. My background includes 12 years of service on the board of directors of the Directors Guild of America, where I was honored to win the Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as serving for nearly 30 years on negotiations committees. In addition, I served on the advisory board of the Children's Forest in Running Springs and on the advisory board of the Lake Arrowhead Film Festival. I am a past president of the Arrowhead Lake Association and currently serve as chair of the Lake Arrowhead Municipal Advisory Council, along with being a member of the Lake Arrowhead Communities Chamber of Commerce. Since 1983, I've been a property manager for my real estate properties. As a community volunteer, I bring years of leadership experience as well as honed skills in technology, marketing, negotiating, proposal writing, problem solving, and most importantly, finding resolutions or compromises in a respectful, congenial, and professional manner to help improve our quality of life. I want to thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Rindenau. With that, I now hand the floor over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Do any of the commissioners have any questions of any of the candidates? Seeing none, we'll ask for a motion from the commissioners. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Lovingood.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mr. Dallmeyer for the position. Dieter Dallmeyer, please, would be my nomination.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Aquanetta. I'd like to second that.
Okay, are there any other motions? Hearing none, we'll ask for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll ask for a roll call. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Curtalo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
That motion passes, and I'd like to congratulate Mr. Damler for him being selected. Dallmeyer, is that how you pronounce your name?
DeMeyer, yes. Hopefully someday we'll all get to meet.
Thank you. And Ms. Amos, I'm like to thank you for your service. You've been a valuable member of our commission, and wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I also would like to thank each of the candidates who put their name in. You're all eminently qualified for the job, and unfortunately, we have to select someone. So thank you for being here and for showing your interest in serving on LAFCO.
Mr. Chair, before we move on, we need to give our new alternate public member his oath of office. And so may I ask Ms. Jones to give the oath of office to Mr. DeMeyer.
Good morning, Mr. DeMeyer. If you can please raise your right hand.
Sure.
And repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Dieter DeMeyer,
solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am now about to enter.
the duties upon which I am now about to enter.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
DeMeyer,
Right.
you're now officially the alternate public member to the commission. As alternate, you will not be allowed to vote today, only in the absence of the regular public member, but you are welcome to participate in the discussion, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We now move on to our consent items, which are items that have no controversy and will be acted upon by the commission at one time without discussion, unless there's been a request to receive prior to the hearing to discuss the matter. Are there any consent items deferred for discussion?
Mr. Chair, there has been no request to pull any items on the consent.
Okay. With that, Ms. Jones, were there any written comments submitted for these items?
No comments submitted.
Is there anyone in the public wishing to speak on these items? Either click the raise hand button, or for those on Zoom via phone, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Seeing none,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the consent calendar in the form presented.
very good. We have a
I'll
second.
second that.
Ms.
Commissioner
Jones,
Cox, second.
Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortalo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovinggood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
and Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
I was looking for you out there. I didn't see you.
The item passes unanimously. On to our public hearing items. Item 10 is consideration of
I went
review
out there.
adoption.
What's his name? Grinning was wandering around.
Someone
But you know to be found?
needs to mute their
Mr.
Where were you?
Mr. Farrell, if you could mute your mic.
Okay, item 10 is consideration of review and adoption of LAFCO's fee schedule effective July 1. I will now open the public hearing and have staff make a presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you again. The next three items on the agenda relate to the final actions for your budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2020-2021. Item 10 is the review and adoption of the Commission's schedule of fees, deposits, and charges to be effective July 1, 2020. At the April hearing, the Commission adopted the proposed fee schedule, which was circulated to the county, all the cities, and all special districts for review and comment. During the period, we did not receive any comments on the proposed changes. So staff is recommending that you take the actions outlined on page 1 of the staff report, which include making the determination for environmental review and certify that the proposed revisions to the fee schedule are exempt from CEQA and file the notice of exemption, that you adopt the schedule of fees and deposits and charges effective July 1, 2020, and that you adopt the draft resolution number 3308 included in your materials, reflecting the Commission's determinations. That's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, Ms. Jones, do we have any written comments?
No comments.
Okay, anyone in the public wishing to speak on this item, raise your hand or press *9. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action.
I'll move the item, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Livingood. Is there a second?
I'll second Curatello.
Second by Curatello. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Curatello,
Aye.
Commissioner Levingood, Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Thank you.
That item passes. On to item 11 is review and consideration of amendments to policy and procedure manual. I'll now open the public hearing and ask staff to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The commission approved the preliminary budget in April that outlined 2 proposed changes to the policy and procedure manual. First one would add a new committed reserve to the reserve policy, which is to fund the extra pay period that occurs every 10 years. And additionally, staff reviewed the reserve policy in its entirety and recommends modifying the general reserve to be an assigned reserve instead of a committed reserve. The second amendment rescinds the cost of living allowance for fiscal year 2020-21, which was previously approved by the commission in 2018. The proposed amendments are shown in track changes in the staff report. Blue text as additions and red text strike out as deletions. Jeff, you can move to the next slide, please. Staff recommends that the commission provide any changes or corrections to the proposed amendments as presented. Adopt the amendments as outlined in the staff report. And adopt draft resolution number 3307, approving the amendments to the policy and procedure manual, and direct the executive officer to make the documents available on the commission's website. That's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
What's the difference between assigned and committed?
The committed reserve, it's committed, so we can't touch that. And in the past, we've used our reserve, our general reserve, to balance the budget. But what we want to make sure is that the committed reserves are always going to be there.
And assigned?
That the assigned is in the past, it's assigned for our litigation reserve, but in the past we've been able to, if we needed to use it, we would take the action to the commission for review.
Do any of the commissioners have questions of staff? Seeing none, Ms. Jones, are there any written comments?
No comments.
I'll open up for the public. If you wish to comment or on this item, raise your hand or press *9. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of this item.
Dr. Cox moves. Is there a second?
I second that, Larry.
Second from Mayor Warren. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
So I have some discussion.
Yes, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
I just want to commend Sam and the staff for taking the initiative to defer the cost of living at this point. The only thing that's certain right now is we're facing a really unknown economic future with the meltdown in the economy. So I'm glad to see that proactive action on our part. No one really knows how badly our agencies are going to be impacted, and the future does not look bright at the moment. So I appreciate them doing that.
Thank you, Tim, for comments. I will echo it too. The staff has done a great job in presenting this budget. I appreciate all of your hard work. Any other comments? Ms. Jones, call the roll.
Commissioner Bagley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortello,
Aye.
Commissioner Levingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Item 11 passes. Item 12 is review and adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2021, including apportionment for independent special districts, cities, and county. I'll now open the public hearing and staff make a presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finally, item 12 is the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2020-21. The proposed budget, which the commission approved in April, was also circulated to the county, all the cities, and all special districts for review and comment. During the period, we did not receive any comments on the proposed budget. Therefore, staff is recommending, Jeff, next slide, please, that you take the actions outlined on page 1 of the staff report, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2020-21, and direct with, including making the required determinations that approval of a reduced budget for the upcoming fiscal year will allow the commission to fulfill its obligations, and direction that the apportionment of the net LAFCO costs be applied to the county, the cities, and special districts based upon the auditor's information, which is attached to the staff report. And finally, direct the executive officer to provide that notification to the auditor controller requesting the apportionment of the commission's net costs as shown on the approved budget. And that's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments from the commission? Go ahead, Jim. Jim? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. So Sam, have you heard any discussion from any of our potential future applications about deferrals or cancellations at this point?
No, sir, not at this point.
Okay.
Other comments or questions? Aquanetta? Nope.
No, just hope everybody's remaining safe. I look forward to us all being together one day.
Do we have any written comments, Ms. Jones?
No comments.
Any public wishing to comment on this item, raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion and action.
Mr. Chair, it's
Yes.
Jim Curatello.
Yes, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, on this item, I'd just like to say Commissioner Bagley's comments on the previous item also apply to this. Sam and staff's sensible and responsible approach to the budget in general, even with these uncertainties and this extraordinary time we're in, makes it very easy for me, certainly, and I think all of us, to support his recommendation. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation as provided.
Motion by Curatello, any second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second it and echo Commissioner Curatello's comments. In many categories, staff has cut expenses, which I think is exemplary at this point in time. Thank you.
Ms. Supervisor Rao?
I do. I have a comment, Sam. Thank you for all the hard work on this. And I don't want staff to be discouraged by this at all. Is it possible that if things turn out to be better than we anticipate in 6 months, for you to bring this back for an adjustment, just a look at it to possibly adjust back upwards?
We can certainly look at that, Commissioner Rao. Again, it all depends on the future. So we'll definitely take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that's a great idea, Supervisor Rao. I believe the economy is going to be roaring back here soon.
Hear, hear.
Jim, do you have a comment? No? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
Aye.
Commissioner Levingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
Yes,
Commissioner Rao,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
that item passes. On to item 13, which is on the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program Planning Grant. Staff?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Over a year ago, when we had our strategic planning workshop, one of the policies that this commission discussed was the lack of an open space and agricultural preservation policy, particularly ag policies. We had a few recent annexations. Some of you may remember annexations to the city of Loma Linda and the city of Redlands, all of which were proposed housing development that included conversion of prime farmland as a result of the proposed development. CEQA includes farmland loss as a significant impact that must be avoided or mitigated, which is why we have this required mitigation of agricultural lands to ensure potential impacts to prime farmland are addressed. This is done through the requirement to either replace, protect, or provide a conservation easement for the loss of prime farmland. We've seen a number of these required mitigation, not only through the annexation process that we've done in the past. We see this all the time with jurisdictions that still have a few prime agricultural lands that are being converted. And the conservation easements are purchased elsewhere throughout the state, primarily in the Central Valley, which is why this was discussed at length during our strategic planning workshop. The idea of keeping the required mitigation locally to protect some of the very few remaining prime farmland in the region was something that this commission supported. And so fast forward a few months after that workshop, we found out about the SALC program, and staff got involved right away, thinking this was a great way to not only address the ag preservation policies that this commission is trying to accomplish, but working in partnership with other entities, particularly the jurisdictions, the land use jurisdictions that actually require such mitigation, to collaborate and develop local and regional policies that would encourage the long-term preservation of ag lands. Also, as mentioned in the staff report, one of the key issues that this commission identified was the lack of an existing agency in the region that currently has an established ag conservation program. And so we've been closely working with the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District on moving towards becoming an entity that can actually hold such lands for ag preservation. Next slide. That's how we got involved. We've been attending stakeholder meetings in the past. Now the group has decided to go for a planning grant application. And on the screen are the project objectives. First, the project will include mapping and identification of agricultural lands and farmlands. We've already made headway on this front. Some of you may be aware our service reviews for water and wastewater already included ag preserves and Williamson Ag contracts data that we can build upon. And secondly, another objective is to evaluate the county and the city's policies on open space and agriculture preservation. If they have one, if they need one, if there's an existing one that needs to be updated, part of our analysis would include evaluating properties that they own, whether it's the county or the cities, that are currently held for agricultural preservation. And if there's anything out there, additional ag lands that could be potentially be set aside for agriculture preservation. Third, I alluded to this earlier, another objective, which is probably for LAFCO, our main objective is to be able to demonstrate to the Department of Conservation IERCD's ability to manage agricultural lands that will be set aside for conservation. And finally, the hope is we could incorporate the proposed regional mitigation program into SCAG's SCS as a regional program. It was only recently, maybe about 3 weeks ago, that we, IARCD in particular, was informed that it could not be an applicant for the planning grant. IARCD was heading this effort all throughout this process, and which is why we are considering this item today to see if the commission is willing to support staff's proposal that we, LAFCO, be the official applicant. The staff report outlines the proposed roles for IARCD, the roles for LAFCO, as well as the financial considerations regarding the project, which is on the slide. At this time, we really are not sure how much this project is going to cost. However, we've been advised by the DOC staff helping us out to go for the maximum, which is the $250,000. And as noted in the display, IRCD is willing to cover the required 5% cash match and the remainder 5% in kind services. Next slide, Jeff. This are the important dates to remember. The focus right now is to submit the pre-proposal. At this point, we're not sure if we are going to have a June hearing, which is why staff is asking for direction now so that we can submit the pre-proposal prior to the July 1, 2020 deadline, whether we have a June hearing or not. Staff will definitely come back to the commission prior to the full application being submitted, since that requires a LAFCO resolution in order to submit the planning grant application. Next slide. Staff believes this is a great opportunity for LAFCO to actually put together, in collaboration with the local and regional partners and stakeholders, ag preservation, being able to put together ag preservation policies that would encourage the preservation of ag lands and hopefully develop a local mitigation tool to preserve ag lands in our region, in our own backyard, while continuing to address housing and development needs. This is something unique outside of our usual comfort zone, but very much aligned to one of the tenets of LAFCO, which is preserving open space and prime agricultural land. So LAFCO staff is seeking the commission's support in submitting the South Program Planning Grant pre-proposal and continue working with the IRCD staff on finalizing the full application and return to the commission for final adoption of the resolution approving the submittal of the planning grant application, which is the recommended actions on page 1 of the staff report, and which is on the display as well. And that's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. And we also have I think we have a member from IERCD on the line to answer any questions at this time.
Yes, Sam, I'm not sure that it should be our role to facilitate the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District to get a grant and to administrate it for them. I'm not convinced that this is something that we want to do, but commissioners, your thoughts?
This is Aquanetta Warren, and we had another route at our city to go for a planning grant. But if they're unable to be part of that program, the benefits. I think you have to weigh the benefits we'll receive for our whole county if it comes through us. And Sam, can you answer this question regarding that? This is the only way they really can get this grant. Is that accurate, or can they personally go out and do it themselves?
So IRCD themselves cannot do it. So the if you look at the guidelines, the county can do it, the cities can do it,
right?
And it specifically outlines LAFCO can do it, and this is only for the planning grant. The other grant where it's the acquisition of ag lands, those the resource conservation districts can in fact go that route. So once they get the ability to conserve lands, if they go that route to actually purchase lands, then they can actually go for that grant, the actual purchase of the ag lands. This one is just the planning process, and we are at that stage.
Right, and we are working directly with them on the planning. So I understand your concern, Larry, but this is the route that the state has put us in, but we do need to have that planning done.
Mr. Chair, I feel that this fits well with our commission to preserve prime agricultural lands. And when the opportunity is appropriate, I would like to make the motion on this item.
Supervisor Lovingood?
Yeah, no, yeah, just as we witness really kind of what this virus has done to our economy, and continues to do, by the way, we're going to end up realistically, I'll wait till my ending comments, but is there anything, requirements with the grant that could anyhow become an issue due to finances? Or would we be obligated in some way or have some risk?
To my knowledge, go ahead.
This is Paula D'Souza. We haven't reviewed the grant contract itself yet, but we will. I think right now, though, I think that if we do receive the grant will come back to the commission for approval, correct?
Typically, that is what happens.
Well, then if commission.
I just want to confirm with the executive officer that this just allows us to go through the pre-proposal process and submit the final grant application, but there would still be another decision for the commission to make at a later date, correct?
Right. So the actual full application will have to be submitted by August 28th, I think, and that we will have to come back to the commission for them to take the action on and adopt a resolution. And then the actual awarding of the grant is down sometime in December, I think. So.
Correct. And so I think the thought was we didn't want to spend legal time looking through the grant agreement if moving forward with the pre-proposal process wasn't the commission's desire, but we can certainly do that as we move forward.
Mr. Chair?
Supervisor Rao.
So I have some sincere concerns also with this. I was not a part of LAFCO in January 2019 for the workshop that was held, and I'm worried about the cost. So is this a one-to-one mitigation for our development? Then if we have development that moves forward, what are the increased development costs with a program like this if we receive the grant and go forward? So I'm not sure, and I'm all for the preservation of ag lands, but I just want to know what the unintended consequences are to development in our county.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Commissioner Rao. That's part of the process. That's part of what we're going to do is to plan and put policies into place. And we in the past annexations, if some of you may remember, the city of Loma Linda tried it. They actually tried to say, okay, if you can find somebody to do it here locally within the city of Loma Linda, we're going to give you a half acre for every 1 acre. And then they said, if we can find something in the region, it will be 1:1. And then if it's somewhere in the Central Valley, it's going to be 2:1. So those are things that will have to be part of the planning, the actual planning of policies and and see where everyone has to put into place their own policies, and see if we can come into an agreement or a consensus, I would say.
I appreciate that. It just becomes more and more difficult to develop here at all. And when you look at San Bernardino County and the fact that 80% of our lands are federal government, we just don't really have the available land for the development that it looks like on a map. So I'm going to hold fast with my concerns. Thank you.
And, you know, and I appreciate those comments, but I do know that these planning grants, and by the way, we're not guaranteed to get this grant, correct, Sam?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're going to be in a competitive situation, but so often projects are being held up, like you said, when it comes to this process, because we haven't planned. We do have some plans, but it's all over the map. Everybody's got a plan. And some of us city-wise, we've been actually talking about combining our efforts, you know, where we can plot things at where we don't necessarily say you'll never be able to develop there, but it allows other people that are already ready to go to move forward. So I support this effort and hope that we get this grant. We did a similar grant for housing down in our downtown area, and it's really created a faster pathway and more accurate pathway in planning in advance how things will be looking in our downtown area. So I'm glad you brought this forward, and I will support it. And I look forward to the motion, and hopefully the concerns can be addressed if we even get the grant, because there are very strict rules with the grants usually.
So, Commissioner Bagley.
Mr. Chairman, I have a number of concerns with this proposal also, and it has to do with the general nature of one of our roles is also to consolidate government and find efficiencies when agencies no longer serve their purpose. If these conservation districts aren't eligible for this grant funding, it raises a legitimate concern about their legitimacy. And I'm not sure that LAFCO is the appropriate role here. When I look at the staff report and I see the remaining agricultural lands that are in Williamson contracts, it's a very small percentage of the county. I'm interested in preserving agricultural lands too, but I believe the cities and the counties are the best vehicle to do that within their own general plan mechanisms, not necessarily a legacy conservation district that is trying to reinvent itself in the year 2020. Some of you have heard this from me before, but 100 years ago, San Bernardino County was a very rural agricultural county. It is what the economy ran on, was mining and agriculture. That's not the case in 2020. And we have some of these legacy conservation districts that were very appropriate years ago when they were founded, but they've outlived their usefulness now. They are still drawing tax bases. They're constantly trying to reinvent themselves. And apparently they're not even eligible for a grant germane to the sort of planning they're supposed to do. I would prefer that the cities or somebody else be the lead agency other than LAFCO. This is another requirement on us. If we do a municipal service review on the nature of ag lands, I think that's appropriate. But for us to actually go out and apply for this grant, I am questioning the wisdom of it.
Other comments, questions? Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, it's Jim Curto. Look, I understand both sort of sides of this and the concerns that are raised, and especially with the uncertainties. But Sam, with some of the questions that have been raised about how this would play out, if we apply or if we move forward with this, and then when it comes back time for approval, we have time as a commission to reposition on this, correct? Am I understanding that properly?
You're right. Again, this is something where the final approval or the final submittal of the application will have to come back to the commission anyways. So, and that will be more, we'll have more specificity, if you will, on what the rules will be.
Okay, and it is competitive. So there's some questions there even.
You're right. It's competitive, but at the same time, I should also note that, you know, the DOC staff has been very supportive of this project, actually very supportive with IRCD until they were told that they could not do this as the lead applicant. But this proposal was selected to actually receive technical support from the Department of Conservation consultant team. So the fact that I think it's garnering some support, hopefully we will be able to get the grant.
I agree with Jim Bagley that this really is something that the cities and counties should be involved in, and is not really a role that I believe LAFCO should be involved in. So I'm going to oppose this item.
Mr. Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, I would like to make the motion that we support staff submitting the planning grant application, knowing that it will come back at a later date if awarded for further consideration by the commission. In the meantime, it'll give staff the opportunity through the process of applying for the grant to be able to answer the commission's concerns in greater detail in the future. So I strongly support this item and propose that motion.
Like to second that?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Larry, this is Steve Farrell.
Yes,
I can comment on this. I was one of the supporters of looking into ways that we can mitigate locally for this type of land acquisition and conversion. I really support this program. I had a question, it probably could be answered later, but it may sway some people. But it's my understanding that we will not be the, if this goes forward and if it is approved and we develop an actual mitigation program, we will not be the entity responsible for it on an ongoing basis. The RCD will be qualified to apply for the grants in the future for actual acquisitions and oversight and management of the lands. So what we're doing is simply teeing this up as a project for us to use county-wide. In my view, a city, particularly in our area, isn't a broad enough entity to actually handle this. So the county comes to mind. It certainly could be a county project. But because we are charged for preservation of ag, I think that was one of the reasons LAFCO was explicitly called out as a qualifier for this planning application. So I do think we are the correct entity. And because we had identified this as one of our charters, I think it's perfectly appropriate to move forward. One comment too on the project application. It did look to me when I looked at it that the project area as defined in the background, it does look like it is the IERCD boundaries, except that there is one element in Grand Terrace that seems to be part of the Riverside Corona or Corona Riverside RCD. And I was wondering why that was included if they're not part of this project planning. So just an observation, probably could be corrected later state, but I just reviewed this process. And I've, again, fully encourage people to at least move forward until we get more explicit answers to these concerns. Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Susie Kirshner with the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District.
Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to chime in briefly. Thank you all for considering this recommendation, and thank Sam and Mike for really helping with this project. But to address, a couple of concerns I've heard, I did want to mention that yes, we would be, the Inland Empire RCD would be the one to carry out, especially the development of a conservation program. We do currently have a countywide program that we use for habitat mitigation. So we work a lot with the cities and county and agencies to help mitigate any responsibilities with fish and wildlife or anything like that. but we really haven't historically worked much with agricultural lands. And it's something that we wanted to consider when we heard about this opportunity. And like Sam said, originally the Department of Conservation was working closely with us and wanted the IRCD to apply, but then they realized that within their own criteria, the RCDs aren't actually eligible. And both county land use services and then LAFCO had kind of been in part of this process throughout. So we, looked to Sam and LAFCO to see if this might be something, since it's a regional project and something that would really be more of a planning effort with a program side development, but not nothing really requiring more of a planning effort. And so we were just hoping it could be a good tool for the region. And so I would be happy to take any questions specifically for the IRCD, but really just want to thank you all for your consideration on this.
Okay, any questions of Susie? Okay, if not, any further discussion? Ms. Jones, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bagley,
No.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortalo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lovingood,
Yes.
Commissioner McAllen,
No.
Commissioner Rao,
No.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
And the ayes have it.
Yes, the ayes have it.
Motion passes. Okay, we'll now move on to our information items. Item 14 is a legislative oral report. Sam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing much to report at this time. The legislature has resumed their activities, although very limited, and they are at this point focused on addressing mostly COVID-19 related bills that the governor is encouraging both the houses to act on. So therefore, all the bills that LAFCO and CalLAFCO were tracking are pretty much on hold. All of these are likely going to be reintroduced next legislative year. So if anything comes up in the future, I will provide you with an update. And that ends my legislative oral report. Thank you.
The commissioners have questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go on to 15, which is the executive officer's oral report.
Thank you. I just have a few. At this time, we don't anticipate having a June hearing, but that could change. Nonetheless, whether we will have one or not, we will be sending out reminders next couple of weeks. I want to provide the commission an update on the proposed Spring Valley Lake CSD formation proposal, LAFCO 3233A. The protest process has concluded. LAFCO 3233A has been approved and is now subject to the confirmation of the voters at the November 3, 2020 ballot. We had a quarterly meeting last Monday with the other SoCal LAFCOs via Zoom. We discussed a number of things, including how each one was coping with the COVID-19. We had an update on the joint RFP for audit services that 5 of the 6 LAFCOs participate in. And we anticipate taking that to the commission late fall for its consideration. And we also received an update on CalLAFCO activities. We also want to let the commission know that we had begun work on our solid waste service review. And finally, last but not least, I want to just update you on our office. Staff is continuing to work on a staggered work schedule. I also want to point out that we are continuing to do our part in trying to keep the office in a safe environment. I've instructed staff that when in the office, we continue to wear face masks and practicing social distancing. And the good thing is, due to the size of the office, we are actually able to effectively practice social distancing. So for now, like many other agencies, the LAFCO office is still closed from the public. However, we continue to take care of business via phone, email, and via teleconference and video conference. And that ends my EO oral report. Thank you.
Any questions of Sam? Seeing none, we'll go on to commissioner comments. Any of the commissioners like to make comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, certainly. Robert Lovingood.
Go ahead.
Hey, just a real quick couple, biggest things I just want to bring up. It's kind of a number of conversations, but with this virus and what we're dealing with, folks, we've effectively, and if we're talking about, roaring back, and there's going to be great challenges to roaring back. Well, the damage with every day that we continue what we're doing is another day of damage that many won't recover from. We have taken small businesses, which represent 40% of the economy, and cut that in half with a number of closures. The other impact, had a conversation, as you folks know, my background is in staffing, both recruiting and having a friend in conversation in the medical community. And over the weekend, his comments were, we appreciate what you're doing. It's allowing recruiting and for us to harvest other physicians out of your state on a readily basis, is basically the conversation. We've taken folks that are now getting full practices, partnerships being offered to leave, and they're doing so because, as one physician I know, he hasn't been able to do surgeries in an area for the last 2 months. So when I look and I ask the damage that we're inflicting, and my belief, as I speaking with a doctor yesterday, ears, nose, and throat, he says we've all been exposed. At this point in time, we have. So we have to get to, and he says the only thing that will work, and I think it was echoed by you, Sam, is social distancing. I still think masks are good, but the people at risk, obviously, if you've got heart disease, you got the litany of lists. You're diabetic, heart disease, blood pressure, kidney failure, liver failure. If you have any of those things, then it's probably really certain. But we need to get back to business to help folks, which are such a strong part of the economy. With that, I'm going to finish. Everyone have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Jim. Curtello or Bagley?
No, it was
Bagley.
Bagley, go ahead.
Sam, I have a couple of procedural things I'd just like to recommend to you. We had the selection of the chair and vice chair and also the interview of the alternate public member come up. It was kind of a surprise to me. Obviously I'm not tracking these things, and I would recommend that we have like a 30 and a 60-day reminder, probably in your executive oral report, about these things are coming up so the commission can be planning. Anytime we have a change in the commission with the selection of other things, we've done that in the past, and I think it just gives people a better chance to be organized and prepared for these events as they happen. I also want to make the commission aware there were some link problems in the staff report that went out. It wasn't working on my iPad, but I think Sam and the staff have fixed that. If it's not working for me, it's not also working for the general public, and it's very important that we're transparent and they have the ability to read all the attachments. But finally, it's with great sadness that I learned Dennis Hansberg has passed away. He was a longtime contributor to the county of San Bernardino. He's a former supervisor. I consider Dennis a personal friend, and he was a member of LAFCO. And I would like to suggest that we adjourn the meeting in his honor.
Will do. Other comments from commissioners? I want to sort of echo what Supervisor Lovingood said. I really appreciate the efforts by Supervisor Lovingood and Supervisor Rao at the county in trying to get the county to move faster into opening up businesses. And certainly I hope we are able to do that as quickly as possible, because we are really suffering as a county and as a city and as a nation. We've got to get our businesses opened up, and I applaud your efforts, Supervisor, and ask that you continue to be our champion.
Here, here.
Any other comments from commissioners? Seeing none, we'll go on to public comments. Are there any public comments written, Ms. Jones?
No, sir, no public comments.
Any public comments on subject matters that are not on the agenda from the public? Please raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Seeing none, we will now wish you all a good day and have a good week and stay safe. And hopefully our next meeting, if it's not in June and July, maybe we'll be able to get back together rather than electronically actually looking at each other. Thank you all. Stay safe.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take care.